Hey, welcome to Adventures in Podessey. I was listening to the radio the other day and I heard a rather interesting thought. Um, it was Did the Patriots make a mistake keeping Tom Brady instead of Jimmy Garoppolo? I think the obvious question that most people ask is, well, why didn't they keep them both? Um, I think that requires the assumption that Garoppolo would have been okay continuing to sit behind Brady for another 2 or more years. And I don't think he actually was. I think he wanted to get out from under the shadow and go be his own man somewhere. The other problem is they would have had to use a $23 million franchise tag to keep him if he decided that he did want to leave. And $23 million for 1 year is a lot to pay for a backup quarterback. That's pretty unrealistic. On top of that, Brady would have had to restructure his contract yet again, which, yes, he hasn't had a problem doing that in the past, but is he really going to want to do that for the backup quarterback? On top of this, I think we need to note that they wouldn't have had any cap space to sign a number of people, including Marquise Flowers and LaAdrian Waddle. These are guys who really helped them go to the Super Bowl that they lost to the Eagles in, but also to the Super Bowl that they beat the Rams in just last year. The fact of the matter is, if they keep Brady and Garoppolo, they would have suffered so much hurt to their depth that they probably don't make either of those Super Bowls. So let's talk about what they actually got out of the trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. They got a second round pick from San Francisco, which is not a whole lot. However, Patriots were able to turn that into Duke Dawson, Christian Sam, Joanne Williams, Damian Harris, Jarrett Stidham, a couple other players, and a 2020 fourth round pick that they will have this April. It's worth noting that Sam and Dawson have already been cut and are no longer on the team. However, it's also worth noting that the Patriots and Bill Belichick supposedly see a lot of potential in Stidham. On another note, going back to the Super Bowls, Brady was absolutely historic in the loss to the Eagles. He's the only person to throw for over 500 yards in a loss. They also, again, got championship number 6 with a victory over the Rams. So, what if they had gotten rid of Tom? Well, they got a second rounder for Jimmy, which, again, Belichick and the Patriots parlayed into the aforementioned players and the upcoming 2020 fourth rounder. Assuming that they don't go ahead and trade that fourth rounder for even more picks, then, they got a pretty big haul. I think around 8 or 9 players total. They definitely would have received more for Brady, probably a first round pick. And I think they definitely could have turned that first rounder into even more of a haul than what they got out of the second rounder when all was said and done. But let's get one thing clear. Jimmy Garoppolo may be playing in the Super Bowl in 2 Sundays from now, but let's not lie to ourselves and act like the Patriots would magically be playing in the Super Bowl if they had Jimmy Garoppolo instead of Tom Brady this year. That's just unrealistic. The fact of the matter is, they wouldn't have made an appearance in any Super Bowls if they had gotten rid of Tom Brady and had Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm. If you take a look at the 2017-2018 playoff picture, I think it's safe to say that Jimmy G would have been able to lead the Patriots to a victory over the Titans that year. However, in the very next game, the Tom Brady-led Patriots went down 20-10 at one point against the Jaguars. Going back and looking at that game and the flow of it and how it all worked out, I really don't think that Jimmy G would have been able to make that comeback happen. Even if Jimmy had pulled it off, there's no way he's throwing for over 500 yards against the Eagles, which means the 41-33 loss probably would have looked more like 49-21, which is a complete blowout, and honestly, it could have been even worse than that. In 2018-2019 playoffs, we can go ahead and give Jimmy the benefit of the doubt again. Let's go ahead and assume that they face the Chargers and Jimmy beats them, just as Tom did. I'm not even going to discuss the Patriots potentially losing to the Rams in the Super Bowl, because they wouldn't have even been there if Jimmy was the quarterback. There is not a sane person in the world who thinks Jimmy could have beaten the Chiefs that year. It's just completely unrealistic. So where does that leave us? Well, if we go back and look at the three options that they had, two of them result in no Super Bowl appearances. If they somehow keep Brady and Jimmy, the overall team is just not going to be good enough to make it to the Super Bowl. If they get rid of Brady and keep Jimmy, they again are not going to be able to make it to the Super Bowl. So where does option 3 leave them today? Where does that third option, the one that they took, where does it put them at right now? Well, first and foremost, it resulted in 2 Super Bowl appearances and a Super Bowl ring, which, if you're a Lions fan, is the thing of legends. We don't know what a Super Bowl appearance even looks like, let alone a 6th championship ring. I personally don't think Brady is retiring this offseason, and even if he does, they've had 2 years to be looking for his replacement, and if Brady does retire, then they have that cap space to sign or trade for a quarterback. At the end of the day, I don't really think there's any question as to whether or not they made the right choice. If you have the opportunity to make it to 2 Super Bowls and win a championship, you do it, no matter what the cost is. That's all I've got on this topic. I think in a couple days I'm going to try and upload a video talking about my top 10 artists that you probably haven't listened to. So stay tuned for that if you want to get put on to some new music that personally I think is pretty good. So if you listened to this, thank you. Hope you enjoyed it and that it wasn't too terrible to make it through. Hopefully, as I start doing this a little more frequently, I'll get used to the volume settings and the editing of the vocal tracks and whatnot. And hopefully the overall quality will just be a lot better. So if you're listening to this and you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, give it a thumbs up or whatever. And if you have something you want me to talk about or any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for listening.